to the Deadlands, a Stolen Demon Bride novella, Book 1, written by Elle Mae, narrated by Magnolia Gray. Chapter 1. Mia. Sometimes seeing ghosts had its perks. As soon as the elderly lady hobbled out of my rundown shop, I started counting the massive wad of cash she had slipped me. All I had given her were a few words of comfort, a tale or two of her deceased husband living it up in the afterlife, and a couple of far-off stares, and just like almost everyone that found their way into my shop, she believed it. I had made a name for myself in the small town. The town of Fallhurst had only about 2,000 people and had only grown a few handfuls in the 5 years I'd been here. I was poor when I arrived, still was if I was being honest, and had no way of making money, but it only took me a few days to realize the small quirks of this town. This town loved the supernatural, and with this money, I have enough for monthly rent on this shop, and I can even afford a treat for myself. A part of me felt bad for taking advantage of some of these people in their grief-filled states, but money was money. A high-pitched whine drew me from my thoughts. I looked back to my desk where my cat, Momo, sat looking at me with her big green eyes. Also a customer favorite. She would often sit on the laps of customers as I went about my show, soaking up all the attention and warmth. One could almost think she was the perfect accomplice, putting everyone at ease while I worked my magic. I bounded toward her, letting my hand run across her smooth black fur. She leaned into my pets, her purr filling the quiet shop. "Maybe I can get you a treat too," I whispered to her. When she looked up at me and meowed as if understanding my words, I couldn't help but smile. "For next stray, you are sure spoiled." Not that I minded. I would spoil that cat with everything I had. After all, she was all I had besides this shop. I had been lucky to find her one day behind my dumpster. At the time, she was all skin and bones and hadn't gotten her nails trimmed in what looked like years. When I took her to the vet, they rushed her into emergency medical care. She fought to survive, and after that, there was no way I would have been able to leave her behind. The doorbell chimed behind me, causing my heart to speed up. Another customer. Maybe my luck is finally kicking in. I turned to greet them, but jolted back when I instantly came face to face with a person. No, not a person. I gripped the desk behind me with all my might, for fear that I might faint if I didn't. She could have been confused for a person if it weren't for the bright red horns jetting from her forehead. They poked out of shiny white hair and circled backwards and out. Dark black veins trailed from them, running down her forehead and sticking out against her pale skin. Wide red eyes filled my vision, looking at me with a playful expression. What should have been the whites of her eyes were completely black. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Fear had taken hold of my entire body. "Spirit seer," she breathed. Her voice was husky and had a bit of a growl to it. "It's been a while since I've seen one of your kind." I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. She tilted her head to the side and took a step back. Only then did I notice two things. One, she had brilliant red wings sprouting out her back. They were so large, the tips of them brushed the ceiling of my shop. Two, she had barely any clothes on. She was covered in a red, shiny, spiderweb-like material that covered her breasts, parts of her stomach, pussy, and legs, starting mid-thigh. "Can you not speak?" she asked. "You were just talking to the old lady. Maybe I should get her." She turned back to the entrance, and whatever panic had been holding me back now forced the words out of me. I might have been a scammer, but I wasn't about to put that lady's life in danger. "Wait, what the fuck are you?" She turned to me, her black painted lips turning into a wide smile. Her clawed hands came up to rub her chin. "Isn't it obvious?" she cooed. In a flash, she was in front of me again, invading my personal space. Her hands spread across the desk behind me, and I had to lean back so our lips wouldn't touch. Guess for me, Spirit Seer. I swallowed thickly. Her entire demeanor was playful, but something eerie radiated from her and had dread taking root in my stomach. It was like she was dangerous but trying to play innocent. What the fuck is happening? Am I really playing a game with some sort of monster? You look too evil to be from heaven, I murmured. From hell? Her smile was so wide, it was like it split her face in half. A Spirit Seer should know that it's called the demon realm now. I couldn't help the huff that forced itself from my lips. Well, excuse me. She leaned back with a laugh. I quickly thought about grabbing whatever was left on my desk and hitting her over the head with it, but her eyes were back on me in milliseconds. The others will like you, she said through her laugh. A bit of an attitude is always fun in the beginning. In the beginning? What about the end? What is she going to do? Beat it out of me? Now that's a terrifying thought. As she turned to look at the entrance, my gaze shot toward the back. There was another entrance back there, but I had boxes of shit piled up in front of it. A total code violation, one I was now regretting, but if I could make a run for it. Clawed hands grabbed my hair and yanked my head back. Not so fast, she threatened. Can't have our goods running off so soon, can we? Your buyer may like a bit of a chase, but I don't. Ice-cold fear filled my veins. The fight or flight response kicked in, and I pushed her back as hard as I could. To my surprise, she actually stumbled. Maybe someone of her power wasn't expecting their prey to fight back, but no matter, I would take it. I used her stumble to my advantage, crawling over the desk and bolting straight for the back door. All the papers, pens, and cups were flung across the floor. My heart felt like it was going to burst in my chest, and blood rushed through my ears. Faster! Go! I stumbled, falling to the floor, but managed to push myself up and make a break for it. I skidded to a halt when the shrill sound of Momo's pained screams hit my ear. My head whipped back to see the demon with Momo in her claws. She had her dangling by the scruff on the back of her neck. Momo was giving a hell of a fight, but the demon didn't even blink. Not even when Momo sank her claws in her forearm. Run, and I eat her. All my hair stood on end. Run, my mind begged me. Run, live, forget the fucking cat. I gritted my teeth. What, now you want to be a good person? I hated that I was being weak. I didn't struggle all those years or fight like hell to make my place here, just to have it blow up in my face because I couldn't leave the goddamn stray I had picked up. But regardless of what my mind was telling me, I couldn't run. Not when the sounds she was making caused my heart to crumble. And not when it felt like she was begging for me to save her. Each moment I paused, the louder her screams got. Give her to me, I ordered. The demon gave me a look. You won't need her where you're going. She held out a hand for me. Going against every survival instinct I had, I walked toward her, but didn't place my hand in hers. She clicked her tongue and threw the cat to the side. I snapped my head in her direction just in time to see Momo land on her feet. The demon took the chance to grab me. It was useless to fight her off this time. As soon as her hands were on me, light burst forward from her chest, and the entire world fell around us. Chapter 2. Mia. One would expect to wake up with a headache when they were kidnapped by a demon, but when I opened my eyes next time, it was quite the opposite. It was almost as if I was being pulled from the best sleep of my life. My body felt light, and there was a thrum of heat spreading throughout my limbs. With a sigh, I turned over, trying to grab the fluffy blankets around me and pull them closer. Just a few more minutes. When was the last time I had slept this well? That's when the whispers broke through the thick haze of my still sleep-ridden mind. It's been too long. Maybe we should wake her? The longer she sleeps, the better. But maybe we can think of a way to escape. There was a rustling sound not far from me. You know that's not an option, a girl hissed. Just let her be blissfully unaware of our situation. I'd join her if I could. What if they come? I groaned as I pushed myself up. Their voices had begun to buzz around my head like two incessant flies. I'm awake! Jesus H. I lost my train of thought when I pried my eyes open to look at the girls. Both were sitting on a bed that had been placed right next to mine and dressed in the same outfit, a thin slip that covered nothing. My bed was high off the ground and decked out in furs and comfortable-looking pillows. From what I could see, the same was true for theirs. No wonder I felt so cozy. My gaze darted around the room as images of my encounter with the demon filled my mind. Kidnapped! I was kidnapped! Or at least, that's what I thought. But looking at the room I was in, it looked more like a place for royalty than prisoners. The wall showed exposed brick, but they were draped in beautiful, glittering tapestries. The floors were covered in rugs of a similar material. Above our heads was a large chandelier that reflected light onto everything around us. Are you okay? I looked at the girls in front of me. The one I assumed had spoken looked at me from under her thick lashes. Her skin flushed the longer I stared. Her eyes were a brilliant shade of purple I had never seen before. That, combined with her fair skin and white hair, made her look ethereal. I'm as good as I could be after getting kidnapped. The girl next to her threw her head back with a loud laugh. Her hair was dyed a deep blue that caught the light as she moved. When she moved to wipe the fake tears from her eyes, I was met with an amused stare. Her brown eyes took me in with obvious interest, and she leaned back onto the bed with a small smirk. At least your brain's working, she said, then nudged the girl next to her. This is Iris. I'm Eve. There are a few other girls, but it's been a while since we've seen them. I assume they're dead. Eve! I gave Iris a forced smile when her panicked eyes caught mine. They roamed over my frame before she visibly relaxed. I'm Mia, by the way. Iris gave me a nod before turning to glare at Eve. We don't know what happened to them, but you shouldn't scare her, Iris muttered. I didn't know how long they had been cooped up here together, but they seemed to be particularly close, so much so that a bit of envy wormed its way under my skin. Can't you tell if she is or not? Eve asked. I'm not that good of an actor. I answered her question myself with a small laugh. I'm still trying to digest everything, so I'm not sure my mind knows how to be anything but confused right now. Eve sat up straight, giving me a devilish smile. No, that's her thing, she explained. She can see it. Can't you, little mouse? Don't call me that. Iris visibly puffed at her nickname. I couldn't tell if their casual attitude was helping or hurting in the situation. I gripped the bedding, trying desperately to calm my racing mind. All of this was too much, too fast, yet I still needed answers, ones I wasn't sure they were willing to give. See what? I asked, desperation seeping into my voice. Please, I'm losing it here. I can read emotions, Iris said after a moment. See them. Kind of like an aura. I swallowed thickly. So what can you see? Eve looked at her as well. Iris shifted her eyes, looking down at her hands. You're confused. It's frustrating you. You weren't scared until I told you about my gift. I'm sorry. Panic rose in me. It's not you, it's just this whole situation. It's okay. I was freaked out about it too, Eve said. I don't like people seeing into me like that, which brings me to you. What can you do? Read minds? Fly? Teleport? I gave her a look. What do you mean? She rolled her eyes. It took a lot of talking, but we figured it out between us and the few that came before you, she offered. We all have something. Iris's auras. I can tell when someone lies. And you? I stilled. The two girls in front of me looked normal, like any other humans walking the earth. What do they mean they have special powers? And why do they think I have? No. Realization, closely followed by horror, hit me like a truck. Seeing ghosts was a lie. The townspeople believed it, but that demon? Was that the reason she kidnapped me in the first place? I'm going to throw up. She's having a breakdown. No. My voice came out harder than I meant it. It's just, she called me a spirit seer. I looked up sheepishly. Both of them looked at me with varying degrees of hesitancy. I prayed to whatever power was out there that Eve wouldn't catch me in a lie. Because it wasn't technically a lie. The demon did call me that. But whether that was true or not was a whole different story. I'm obviously much worse of an actor than I thought. Eve relaxed a bit. Well, then maybe you can spot the one that comes into our room to deliver food. Iris didn't say anything, but she wouldn't look me in the eyes either. Can she tell? Even worse, will she tell Eve? Food? I asked. How long have you been here? Almost a week, Eve said. Iris is on day 3. Without warning, the door burst open. I jerked back and pushed myself to my knees, eyes trained on the door. Oh, it's the food, Eve commented. Don't try to run. That's how the last one disappeared. I had been lying the entire time. I had not once seen a ghost, but the thing that walked through that door? It was the most twisted, grotesque thing I had ever seen in my life. Whatever it wasn't a ghost. I had nothing to compare it to, but my gut feeling told me that thing was far worse than any spirit. Its body was skeletal-like, with skin that looked more like leather than anything human. Chains were wrapped around its body, and low moaning sounds came from its disfigured mouth. It didn't look our way as it set the plates down on the floor, nor when it turned to leave. The door shut behind it automatically. So, did you see it? I swallowed thickly and looked back to the other two. It wasn't a ghost, I murmured. Whatever it was, I shuddered, unable to finish my sentence. It's angry and in pain, Iris whispered. Maybe another type of demon? Eve shook her head. If that was the case, we would see it. I wanted to tell them that there was no way that was a ghost either because I couldn't see ghosts, but I kept my mouth shut. I'm not sure what the demon wanted with us, but I knew that if I wanted a chance at surviving this, I needed to play my cards right. Chapter 3. Eris. I loathed the auctions. I hated the smell of lingering fear and arousal. I hated having to interact with the demons that were invited. And most importantly, I hated seeing the demons tear apart humans without a second thought. It had been almost a millennium since I stopped feasting on humans, since the fear they exuded left a scar on my psyche, since I had lost control. Back then, I had been a young demon, looking to regain the power to protect what I cared about. But when that was taken from me, the pain of going through these auctions never seemed worth it. Eris, what the hell are you doing here? A grating, yet familiar voice called. I stiffened in my seat. I had made sure to get the one closest to the back and in the shadows somewhat, just so no one could come up to me. Apparently, they didn't get the message. I gritted my teeth and looked at the intruder, or intruders. 2 twin girls stood off to the side. One stood tall, with her hands shoved in her suit pants. Her button-up was loose, and on top of it, she wore a suit jacket with an embroidered royal coat of arms. Her twin looped her arm around her neck, her chin on her shoulder, and looked at me with a devilish smirk. Both had a messy type of mullet that was dyed a light reddish pink. Or at least I thought it was dyed, since no member of the royal family had that monstrosity of a hair color. Maybe it's blood-stained. That would be more on brand for them. Small, delicately filed horns peeked from beneath their hair, Another sign of their heritage. Demons like myself and many others didn't have the resources or even bothered to constantly file their horns. But for royalty, it was a must. Everything about them had to be groomed for presentation to the inner courts, from their clothes to what they ate, to even the women they fucked. How they got away with half of what they did was beyond me. Last I saw them, they were being taken in for punishment after poisoning the royal family's food supply. Anyone else would have been beheaded for even attempting to kill a royal. These two, however, succeeded in killing 3 of their relatives before being caught. But even as demons gathered from across the realms to see their punishment, they walked out to greet us without so much as a hair out of place. Even I had found myself a little impressed with how they managed to pull that off. Against my inner wants, I stood and bowed my head to them. Eros, Oros. Oh, knock it off, Eris, Eris said. She was the one in front, and usually the one that did the talking. Oros, on the other hand, let's just say she liked to play more than she liked to talk. If Oros was talking, trouble was expected. I gave her a forced smile. I too am bound by the rules, Eros, I replied, no matter how long we've known each other. Oros turned around and motioned for the human worker to get them chairs. The man seemed to be young, maybe in his 20s, and while he looked well-fed, the terror of witnessing this auction had left his cheeks hollow and eyes dead. I sat down with them when their seats were brought over. Answer the question, Oros demanded as soon as she sat down. I took a deep breath. Answer what you need to. Give nothing else. I heard there was a spirit seer here, I admitted. Oros let out a laugh that was so loud it caused others to turn and stare at us. I cursed her for her lack of tact. And what would you need with a spirit seer, To eat them, of course, I quipped. Maybe steal their power, if I'm able to. That was mostly a lie. Demons could rarely steal a human's powers after devouring them. It was nothing more than a myth because no demon would ever actually admit to having stolen the powers for fear that they too would be eaten. Didn't you stop eating humans? Eros asked. My eyes narrowed on the darkened stage. I didn't want to meet her calculating stare. She would see right through me. What about you? I asked, deflecting. Eros let out a hum. There's a human lie detector here, she said. You and I both know how well that would do in court. I nodded. Demons were notorious liars, but the royal family even more so. They were cunning, ruthless, and I did not envy Eros and Oros's life. Maybe we can have a bit of fun with them as well, Oros whispered, her excitement obvious in her tone. According to Beau, their nectar tastes just as sweet as their blood. My hair stood on end, and an unrecognizable heat flared in my belly. How many years had it been since I had a chance to taste a human that way? Memories of her body against mine, of her sounds as she came. All of it hit me so hard. It felt as if I'd seen her yesterday, as opposed to a millennium ago. Eris? Fuck. Can I just be left alone? Yeen, I greeted, looking off to the side. I might have banished myself to the shadows, but Yeen was born from them. She could have been standing in the corner the entire time, and the darkness would have hidden her presence. I wouldn't have put it past her. She stepped forward, the shadows melting as soon as she stepped into the dim light. Her inky hair fell to her waist in straight, silky strands. Her light purple horns jutted out from her head and curled backwards. Looking closely, I noticed the dark jewels embedded in them. Her all-black eyes narrowed on me, the ghost of her white pupil, the only thing to let me know I was her target. Unlike the others here, myself included, Yin didn't dress up for the occasion. Instead, she wore a loose robe that tied around her waist and pants that hid most of her frame. They, too, were all black. I didn't have to look down at her feet to know she wasn't wearing shoes. She never did. "I need your help." I bristled at her comment. "Help? Since when am I the one to ask for help?" "You want one?" I asked. She gave me a stiff nod. It wasn't hard to read her. She might have been just as old as me, but sometimes she acted more like a child than a terrifying demon she was supposed to be. "I have enough money for 1 or 2 rounds, but not more." "Too bad they don't take that god-awful glitter that falls out your ass," Oris commented. Yin's eyes narrowed toward the twins. I let out a sigh. Yin and I were as close as I was with the twins, meaning not at all. But, unlike the twins' massive pile of cash, Yin lived in the shadow realm, where the need for money was non-existent. They lived off their powers and rarely came to auctions like these unless they were desperate. "Why do you need a human all of a sudden?" I asked. Yin's eyes looked back down at me. I couldn't glean any information from her expression. Maybe that was a good thing. I feared for the day that she showed actual emotion. "I want a companion." Oros let out a laugh that caused a few of the demons in the room to look over at us once more. It angered me. I didn't like that the demon was being made fun of. I too knew what it was like to be chained up in a realm with no warmth but my own. "If you want a companion so badly, just fetch one of those demons your estate employs. I'm sure they'd jump at the chance to get a mouthful of, 'Once you run out of money, let me know,'" I found myself saying. My better judgment was telling me to stay out of it, but I couldn't help but feel for the demon. "Thank you," Yin whispered, and took a step back into the shadows. She didn't cover herself fully, just enough for us to still be able to see her face and clawed hands. It would be enough for me to know when to take over. Damn, between Yin and myself, just how much money am I going to drop today? It wasn't every day the 4 of us showed up in one place, to bet on humans, no less. The crowd roared to life when lights flooded the stage. A small, winged demon with brilliant white hair and red horns took center stage. No one knew her name. We just all called her Madam. She had been in charge of this auction house for as long as I could remember, and she specialized in bringing the tastiest humans to the demon realm. "Who's ready to purchase some humans?" she asked, a wicked smile spreading across her face, showing off her sharp teeth. "Here we go. I will buy the human, take her home, and when all is said and done, I will finally be able to move on from the hellish life I have been living." Chapter 4. Mia. They forced us out of our beds and dragged us away, kicking and screaming in the middle of the night. Or at least I thought it was the middle of the night. Not that our cage had any sunlight or windows to prove it, and as nice as it was, there was no denying that it was anything other than a prison. Though, if you ask me, I could have probably spent a few more days there without a complaint. The demons that barged in to get us were all wearing the same black uniform, and many of them looked human, save for the horns, claws, and sharp teeth. At least it wasn't that creepy, fucked up thing from before. Iris allowed them to take her without much fight, giving up almost as soon as her feet touched the hallway outside our room. Eve and I, on the other hand, "Get your hands off me, you fucker!" I tried to break out of the guard's hold, but both of them were quickly on me, forcing my arms to my side. One of them was already fed up with my screaming and forced a hand over my mouth. I tried to bite it, but the skin was so hard, it probably hurt me more than it hurt them. At least Eve was giving them hell. She screamed, kicked, and slapped them. Too wild of an animal for them to contain. It wasn't much use, though. We were still dragged down the dark hallway and into an even darker room. As soon as the demon's hands were off me, I pushed myself up and tried to get to the door before they closed it, but some kind of force knocked me down. Glowing, rope-like objects circled my upper body before pulling tight, constricting my movements. I turned back to look at the culprit, but was met with another demon guard. By the looks of his glowing eyes and glower, I assumed he oversaw the others. They were brutes, but at least they couldn't shoot glowing magic at us. "Be gentle," he warned the other demons that surrounded us. "Humans are fragile, and the buyers will be really upset if their goods are damaged." Buyers? Goods? I shot the other girls a panicked look, but both of them already seemed to be frozen in place, gaping at the demon. I guess we all heard the same thing. Hands gripped me and forced me up once more. This time, I couldn't find it in me to fight them. "It's not like they would care anyway," one of the demons by my side muttered. "Right," said the one that held Eve, looking back at us. "They'll be too busy in feeding frenzy to notice a bruise or two." Fear clogged my throat. The demon in charge huffed as we passed him. "Remember that not every demon is here to get a human to feast on," he reminded them. "Some came to find a companion or someone to bear their children. Either way, they pay good money." His voice trailed off as the incessant thoughts in my mind grew louder. What? No. Run, fight them, do something. I turned my head to look back, but there were guards following us from behind, and with my arms currently bound, I wouldn't be able to fight them like I needed to. Eve flung her whole body back. The demons on either side of her scrambled to hold her, not expecting her to react so suddenly. At the same time, my guard's grasp on me loosened just slightly as the ones in front stumbled back. I took my chance, but instead of darting backward, I darted forward. The only guards in front of us were already trying to keep their humans under control, so I guessed they wouldn't try to grab me. And I was right. I slipped beneath Eve's legs, dodging the hands that failed to take hold of me. "Go, Mia!" Iris, who had been compliant until now, clashed against her guards, throwing them off balance enough for me to slip past them. When I pushed back the curtains that separated us from the next room, bright lights blinded me, but I couldn't stop, not when I could feel the demons right behind me. Loud rumblings and cheers called my attention. I blinked a few times until my eyes adjusted and followed the noise. I froze for just a moment, taking in the darkness of the room in front of me. I realized in that moment that I was on a small stage, and people, no, demons, were all around. I couldn't distinguish their faces because of the lights, but I could make out distinct shapes like horns, sharp glittering teeth, glowing eyes, and the heavy feeling of death in the air. I didn't let it shock me for too long and kept moving across the stage until I ran into a hard chest, and it sent me sprawling. The demon reached for me, and I screamed and jerked against his hold. When he tried to cover my mouth with his claws, I bit down hard on his hand. His loud growl roared in my ears. In an instant, his weight disappeared, only to be replaced with another. I turned my head to see the demon fighting two others that had to pull him to the other side of the stage. His eyes were wide and bright red, his teeth bared, and loud growls rumbled from his chest. "Oh my, it's your first appearance, and you've already caused a frenzy," someone said from behind me. Dread hit me hard as I pulled to my feet to come face to face with the demon who had whisked me here in the first place. I opened my mouth to scream at her, but with a single wave of her hand, my throat felt like it was on fire. A cough racked my body and my lungs burned. I couldn't breathe. She didn't stop whatever magic she was doing until black clouded my vision and another demon held me up. I tried to fight him, but his hand was wrapped around me and gripped my face, forcing me to watch the crowd. The longer I stared, the more I could make out the horrific faces that looked back at me. Some of them could pass for humans, but many looked like something straight out of my nightmares. Since the spirit seer offered herself up so prettily, we'll start with her, my kidnapper said from the side. Spirit seers are rumored to have a sharp taste, with hints of winter and mulberry. We will start the bidding at 3,000 royal gold, though remember, you can always offer something from your realm to sweeten the deal. The volume of the room raised in response. I couldn't make out the bids, but the white-haired demon seemed to have no such problem. 5,000 gold and a mermaid scale. Okay, anyone. 6,000 and a dragon egg. No, that would raise it to at least 10,000 gold. Can anyone match? The noise around me quieted as my heart slowed. Is this it? Is this really how it's going to end? Am I really being auctioned off to fucking demons in another dimension? I didn't know how long the bidding went on, only that the entire time I was faced with the cold, hard fact that there was absolutely nothing I could do to save myself. 80,000 and a soul sphere, going once, twice, sold to Demas from the firefields. My breath caught in my throat. There were a few grumbles here and there, but overall, the commotion quieted. A large demon who was at least 7 feet tall walked up to the stage. His entire body looked rock hard, with wound-like slashes all along his limbs and face, showing a bright red color underneath. He stood tall, though his back seemed to be hunched permanently. His mouth opened to show me a set of decaying but sharp teeth. "Touch me and I'll kill you," I forced out, but it only made the demon laugh. "Come, human. It's been years since I feasted." His eyes widened and his entire body froze. A smaller figure stepped out from behind him. Her eyes narrowed in on me. She was unlike any other demon I had seen before. Her skin was gray, with an iridescent shine to it in the light. Her long black hair fell to her waist, with 2 long strands braided back, keeping most of it out of her face. 2 deep blue horns jutted from her head and curled back. She wore a loose blue silk robe that was open in the front, showing off her bare chest, and loose black pants that were tied at the waist. Her claws were tipped in black, and only then did I realize that one of them was also dripping bright red blood. She let out a sigh and pushed the giant demon away, causing him to tumble to the stage. No one attempted to catch him as he rolled off it. 70,000. Her voice was low and husky and caused a thrill to go through me. I looked at the white-haired demon to my right. There was a small smile on her face. "Killing the bidders is against the rules," she tutted, though she didn't seem all that angry. The demon girl shrugged. "We know you won't punish me, so why don't you just give her to me?" The auctioneer demon cocked her head. "It's been a while since you've had a human, heiress of the Deadlands. Pray tell, what amuses you so much about this one?" Heiress. That was her name. Eris shrugged. "Take it or leave it," she grumbled. "No one can match me." "Eros and Oros can." Eris's mouth twisted into a snarl. "They will not bid on this one. Give her to me. I'm running out of patience." The other demon sighed but didn't fight her. 70,000 going once, twice, sold to Eris of the Deadlands. When Eris's gaze met mine, my breath was stolen from my chest. This demon, is going to eat me. Another thought followed that one. Well, at least. Chapter 5. Eris. This little human is going to fucking ruin everything. Not only had she burst out head first onto the stage, but even as I brought her back to my spot to sit, she fought against me. "Let me go, you asshole!" She tried to pull her tiny wrists from my hand, but she was too weak, like most of her kind. Still, I pulled her to me, needing her to come close. When she winced, a shot of guilt burst through me. "Just be good," I warned, leaning close to whisper in her ear. The weight of the eyes of the many demons in the room made my skin burn. It wouldn't be good for me if they saw my weakness. It wasn't uncommon for demons to take a human companion, but not many treated them with respect. Nor did they let them throw a fit in the middle of an auction. Madam's voice sounded right behind me, and the auction was resumed. The human looked back to the stage, and I took advantage of the distraction to pull her away. She didn't fight me as hard this time, maybe because we were headed straight to the twins and to the people who were already focused on bidding on the next human. "A royal favor?" Iris's voice wasn't loud, but it carried far, silencing anyone who so much as attempted to speak over her. Even the human knew not to say anything as I sat her down in my chair. She attempted to make herself smaller by folding her shoulders in and putting her hands between her legs. I knew the right thing to do would be to kneel in front of her and calmly talk her through this, but I had an image to uphold. I felt Yin come to my side before I saw or heard her. The coldness of her shadows enveloped us and caused the human to look up at me with a startled expression. I was met with hazel eyes with long, damp lashes. Umber skin shone under the dim lighting, enough for me to catch a glimpse of the dark freckles that lined her face and neck. Her brown hair was stuck to her skin, which I now realized was slick with sweat. The human is scared. "Cover us more," I ordered Yin. "My human is next. This won't take long." Yin's shadows filled the space around us. I dropped to my knees in front of the human, and she straightened suddenly, giving me a grim expression. "I don't taste good," she said quickly. "I have a human blood disease that is slowly rotting me from the inside. If you're not careful, I'm pretty sure you can catch it too." For the first time in years, a smile threatened to tug at my lips. I leaned forward, close enough for my nose to brush across her chest. Her heart was beating so fast it drowned out all the sounds around me. I inhaled deeply. Pain stabbed deep in my gut. My throat constricted. Drool pulled in my mouth. My teeth ached. I jerked my head back, not trusting myself to get any closer. The frenzy was already playing at the corners of my mind, reminding me of how long it had been since I feasted. Memories of my sharp teeth tearing at human flesh, of the taste of their blood bursting across my taste buds, of their magic filling my veins, hit me like a truck. I closed my eyes. "I won't eat you," I forced through clenched teeth. It had an edge to it that I hoped wouldn't scare the human. "I have other plans for you." Another scent hit me. One I wasn't too sure I had enough control to assess. This time, I shot up to my feet and exited Yin's shadows. I hadn't heard the commotion, but as soon as I was away from the human, my senses flooded back. Demons were growling and yelling all around us. Chairs were being thrown. Bodies clashed against bodies. Empaths are a hot commodity, it seems, Madam called out over the roaring crowd. Let's add something interesting to this bet, Does anyone have another soul sphere to offer? Yin raised her hand. Panic burst through me. I don't have what she's offering. Put your hand down right fucking now. You do not have a... I do, she said, her tone not giving any indication of her lie. A soul sphere for the human. No royal coin. Madam threw her head back with a loud, crazed laugh. Don't kid yourself, she spat. Anyone else? A soul sphere of a realm ruler. Silence fell across the room. It's not possible. Demons didn't have a soul to capture. So, how? Proof, Madam demanded as the human on the stage shook with fear, her eyes wide as she watched us. Yin gave her a quick nod before looking over the crowd. When her eyes fell on the already dead Demas, a slow smile spread across her face. She didn't move from where she stood. All she did was send her shadows over. All black tendrils shot out from her shadows and circled Demas's large body. With ease, they held him up, and we all watched as the shadows attacked him, moving over his skin as if searching for something. Then they started pulsing. With each pulse, the body they covered got smaller and smaller, until... How is that possible? I breathed. He is dead. The shadows dissipated until there was only a single black orb with a red core floating where the body had been. Quicker than I could have thought possible, I turned around and yanked the human out of Yin's shadows. Yin's eyes cut toward me. That hurts me, she deadpanned. I thought we were friends. I didn't know you could... Sold. Yin's gaze snapped back to the stage, and, in a flurry of shadows, both she and the human were gone. I paused, looking at the twins, but the spot they occupied was already empty. A tug on my arm caused me to look back down at my human. Her eyes were wide, and the anger from before seemed nowhere to be found. Mia, she said. My name is Mia. I gave her a hard look. You want something else, right? She asked. If so, you should at least know my name. After all, I do know yours. Eris. My name falling from those lips shouldn't have set me alight like it did. Neither should her scent. So, what the fuck kind of human are you, Mia?